Okay, today we are reviewing order of operations. This should be review for the most part. You've seen this before. We've talked about it before. Not necessarily this year. Well, we did on our assignment with prime factorization. You got to see some of it to kind of review it, but you've definitely learned it prior to this year's math class. So it's not new. We're going to review. We're going to practice today. We're going to practice more tomorrow. It's really important to understand that order of operations tell you exactly the order to solve a problem in, because as we continue on our algebra unit, we start solving expressions and equations. We have multiple expressions to solve. You have to remember the steps to solve them in. Okay, so the acronym that I like to use with it is PEMDAS, and the P stands for something that is called what? Parentheses. Okay, those right there are actually a picture, and I'm leaving it just like this because I don't want my notes to get messed up. So if Caleb and Oliver, y'all are at the very back corner. If y'all need to go down to the carpet to take notes, you can. Okay, those are actually a picture of what we call brackets. So as you continue to advance in your math classes over the years, that P in PEMDAS is eventually going to change to a G, and we call it GIMDAS because G stands for grouping symbols, and there are different symbols that you can use instead of just parentheses. For example, the ones that are shown are actually brackets. You can also have things, I'm going to go ahead and draw parentheses around the P, but you can also have a symbol that looks like this. Anybody know what that's called?
I've seen it.
Okay, so y'all have seen them. It's called a brace. So sometimes you'll see braces, brackets, or parentheses, and all of those are a type of a grouping symbol that tells you to, hey, focus here, do this first. Okay, so that's what the P stands for, at least for right now. But you may see a bracket, you may see a brace. Just know that it's wanting you to do what's inside of it first. Okay. E is for exponents. Before this year, we did not have to solve a lot of expressions involving exponents using PEMDAS. You've already done a little bit of practice with it, but after you solve anything within those grouping symbols, you are then going to do any exponents that you see in your expression. The M and the D are special because it says right here, or. Okay, so we're going to multiply, wrote the wrong letter. Multiply or divide. Why does it say or there?
Because they're not always them.
It's not always multiply first, then divide. Okay, even though M comes before D in PEMDAS, it doesn't mean you always multiply before divide. What it actually means is that you multiply or divide first, whatever comes first, left to right. Notice up here it says, oh, we didn't put it. We're going to add it right now. We're going to put work left to right up here in these little arrows at the top. Work left to right. That's why the arrows are moving from left to right. You've got to remember left to right. So when it says multiply or divide, if a division problem comes first in your expression, you're going to do that first. Then you would do the multiplication if it comes later because you're working left to right, just in the order that we read. Same thing with adding and subtracting. Notice it says or. So depending on what comes first, I may add first and then subtract. But if subtraction comes first, I'll do that. Okay, another saying to go along with PEMDAS to help you remember. Anybody ever heard, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, my mom can help.
Okay, so that is a saying, that is a very common saying, actually, to help you remember the order as well. Oh, my dear. Aunt Sally. Okay, so we are going to practice several expressions. Some have grouping symbols, some have exponents, some have multiplication and division and addition and subtraction, and some just have part of it. It doesn't have all of it. So we're going to start in the top right where it says solve. And the first thing that I want to do is start where? Parentheses. So we're going to underline the part that we're solving first. And guys, some of you are about to get probably frustrated with me because I'm going to make you write every single step. And that's fine. You can feel frustrated, but what I'm doing is I'm trying to get you to develop good habits because, again, advancing through math, your problems only get longer and harder. So it is really important that you solve each step on each row so that if you make a mistake when you get to the bottom, you can go back like one step at a time instead of trying to redo the entire thing again. Okay? So underline what you're going to do first. Then bring everything down that you haven't done yet. So that means I'm bringing down 3 times 4 plus 5 squared minus. Now I'm going to solve what was inside my parentheses, which is 12. What will I solve next? The exponent. The exponent. What is that exponent equal to 5 squared? 25. And then I'm going to bring everything else down around it. So 3 times 4 plus 25 minus 12. Okay, now I'm left with multiplication, adding, and subtracting. So what comes first? Multiplication, which is 12. And then bring down everything else. Okay, now adding happens to come first when I'm reading this problem left to right. So I'm going to go ahead and underline 12 plus 25, which is 37. Bring down the minus 12, and your very last step should be your answer, which is 25. Okay, notice how it makes the shape of like a pizza or like a funnel. All of your order of operation problems should funnel down to the very tip where the answer is. Okay, so it goes down, it's going to make the shape of a pizza. The very bottom should be your answer. Okay, let's look at the next one. This one has a lot. So we're going to underline the thing that we're going to do first. Don't be confused by what you see. What will I underline?
5 plus 4.
5 plus 4. Just because that -2 is inside parentheses, there is not an operation inside the parentheses. So it might look like you have a parenthesis there, but you're not doing anything with it yet. Okay, so what is 5 plus 4? 9. Bring everything else down around it. So 6 times parenthesis -2 cubed divided by 3 plus 1 minus. Okay, what will I underline next? The exponent. Okay, well, when I have an exponent like this, I'm going to tell you right now, when you are multiplying or dividing integers, that's not technically something you learn till next year. But when the signs are the same, it's a positive. So a negative and a negative make a positive. When the signs are different, it's always negative. Okay? So think about this. -2 times -2 should be positive 4 times another -2. So it's -8. Very good. Okay. Then I bring down everything around it. And then what will I do next? The times. Oopsie. I didn't mean to erase that. Oh, man. Okay. So I'm going to do 6 times -8. Okay? So if I have a positive, listen. Shh. If I have a positive times a negative, my signs are different, which means my answer will be negative. Okay? So what is 6 times 8? It would be -48. And then bring down everything else.
So it's negative times negative positive, and it's negative times a positive.
If the signs are the same, it's positive. If the signs are different, it's negative. Okay.
Not necessary to say these.
All right, what do I do next?
Divide.
Uh-huh. What is -48 divided by 3?
16.
-16 plus 1 minus 9. What is my next step? Adding, because it's left to right. So negative 16 plus 1 would be negative 15 minus 9. And this equals negative 24. Y'all, I have a negative and I'm subtracting. You can't forget your integer.
I made a pizza.
You can't forget your integer rules. And notice my big old shape of pizza here.
Can we try the next one?
Okay. All right. You guys, I'm going to split you up. So teal and checker table, you guys are going to work on this bottom problem right here that I'm circling, bottom left. Yellow and blue table, y'all are going to work on this top right problem here. And then peach and purple table, you guys are going to work on the bottom right problem. We're going to come back together and check it. Each of you should work it. Maybe check a step or two. Make sure you're on the right track. Then keep going.
37 minutes.
Okay, everybody, let's look at the board. We're going to go over each one. So if you didn't get to some of the other ones, I know some of you went ahead and you were like, let's go ahead and try the other ones because we already finished this one. That's great. So let's talk about the one that's right here. Negative 7 times negative 4 minus 30 plus 8 times 2. The first thing that you need to do is underline the 8 times 2. That's your operation within your grouping symbols. So we always start there. That is 16. Bring everything you haven't touched down. Then the next step is negative 7 times negative 4. So that's positive 28. Bring everything else down. The next step, I am adding and subtracting in order from left to right. This is where most students mess up. They forget to go left to right and they automatically want to add first. You're doing 28 minus 30, which is negative 2. Then the very last step is to add 16 to that. Because it's a negative 2, you are adding positive 16. You end up at positive 14. Picture a number line. Or use the vertical one up here. If I'm below 0, negative 2, and I go up 16, I'm only at positive 14.
I think people got 18.
Okay. The top right one. The top right one is 5 plus 18 divided by 3 squared plus 3. So there are no grouping symbols. I immediately skip to the E. So I look for any exponents, which I do have 3 squared. So I solve that first, which is 9. Bring everything else down. Then I solve the 18 divided by 9. It's the only multiplication or division that I have in this problem. So I do that next, which is 2. Bring everything down, and then I add, subtract from left to right. So 5 plus 2 is 7. 7 plus 3 is 10. Okay, and then the very last one. On this one, we're going to do a lot of practice with this too, but remember, when you have a number touching like a variable, like a letter, so y'all saw that a lot in Saxon last year, when it's right next to something and there's no operation symbol present, it means you do what? Multiply. So what this means right here is that I'm doing 5 times whatever is inside here. So I've got to solve my grouping symbols, my parentheses first. Negative 3 plus 1 is negative 2. But look, it's negative 2 cubed to the 3rd power. So then I have to solve that, which means negative 2 times negative 2, which is positive 4, times another negative 2, which is negative 8. So I'm now multiplying negative 5 times negative 8, which is positive 40, minus 3, which is 37.